Hi, my name is Alex Dominguez. I am a candidate for Miami-Dade County Property Appraiser. Before I begin my presentation, I just want to give you a little bit of background. I am a resident of Miami, Florida for the last 42 years. I went to school here. I have a bachelor's degree in finance and international business from Florida International University. I also hold a master's degree in public administration. And I've also been a realtor for the last 20 years here in Miami-Dade County, as well as a pharmaceutical executive. And what I want to do today is go over a couple of slides to give you an idea as a voter and educate you a little bit as to what's going on at the property appraiser's office and what we can do better going forward so we don't face the same issues that we've been facing for the last 12 to 15 years. And the first thing I want to show you is the percent of appeals granted in Miami-Dade County versus Broward. As you know, every August you get your trim notice and you get your property appraised and you get your bill. And you have two options. You can either go ahead and pay it or go ahead and appeal your bill at the Value Adjustment Board. When you look at this slide, for about the last 12 to 13 years, dating back to 2001, with the data that we have readily available from the Department of Revenue, and these numbers that you're looking at, folks, are straight from the Department of Revenue's website, you'll find that on average in Dade County, 46% of all the appeals that are filed are actually granted. This gives you an idea that our appeals, our appraisals that are coming out of the appraiser's office are too high and have been historically too high for too long. Now, when you look at Broward County, the average is close to about 7%, which looks to be about where it should be. And in Broward County, they look like they are doing a lot better job of appraising property than we are. And these numbers are unacceptable. This is the equivalent of going to your favorite restaurant 100 times and asking the waiter to check your bill before you pay for it, and the waiter comes back, and 46% of the time, they tell you that they overcharged you, that they're going to have to adjust your bill downwards. You would not be very happy, and that's exactly, in layman's terms, is what's going on in Dade County. So that's one thing I wanted to definitely go ahead and show you. These numbers are, like I said, readily available at the Department of Revenue, and should be concerning to all taxpayers in Dade County, whether you own property or a business. These numbers are way out of whack, way too high, and we need to find out why. First of all, we've identified the problem. Now we have to dig a little bit deeper and find out why we are being overtaxed and what numbers are we using to come up with some of these appraisals. The second slide I want to show you is the number of appeals that have been filed since 2001 to 2011 in Dade County versus Broward. Obviously, Miami-Dade is going to have a lot more appeals being filed because we're a lot larger. But look at what happened between 2008 and 2011. Now, we all know that short sales and foreclosures were an economic reality here in Dade County. But at the appraiser's office, they decided unilaterally not to include foreclosures or short sales until late 2012 when it became a campaign issue. Now, look what it did to the number of appeals filed in Dade County. It inundated our value adjustment boards with over 210,000 appeals, which are still or just finished being heard since 2010 and 2011. And now, folks, we're in 2014. The backlog due to the number of appeals has been incredible, and we can blame it on a various amount of things. But if you look at the numbers don't lie, and look at the shaded areas in red. It had a lot to do with the fact that we didn't include foreclosures and short sales, and it also had a lot to do with appeals attorneys who were filing appeals on behalf of residents of Dade County without contacting them, which they're more than, and you know, they can do it. It's the law. It's a loophole in the law, and that's exactly what happened. They were filing appeals because, hey, if 46% of all the appeals are getting overturned, they're making a ton of money. And the attorneys aren't going to Broward, folks. They're staying in Dade County because that's where the money is. If we were appraising property fairly and accurately, they wouldn't be filing all these claims for homeowners and property owners in Dade County, because you know what? 6% in Broward, 46% in Dade. Where would you go if you were an attorney and you were filing appeals and you were making money or a percentage of it when you're helping folks with their bills? And I don't blame them. I'd be going to Dade County as well. And the way it's starting to affect the residents of Dade County, and especially the school system, if you look at a couple of articles that came on the Miami Herald earlier this year in February and March, you know, Miami-Dade's in a budget crunch because we just finished reviewing almost 200,000 bills combined in 2010 and 2011. And think about this. That's $15 billion collectively in reductions. Think about how hard it is to budget or to operate a business when in the middle of the game they tell you that you're going to be $15 billion short, or you've got to give back so and so amount of some money, and at a 12% interest. When the county gives back money due to an appeal, not only do we have to get the difference where the homeowner, property owner was overcharged, we also have to include a 12% interest on the money. So on top of the fact that we're overtaxing people to begin with, when we do give them the money back, we have to give them the money back with 12% interest. And then we wonder why we don't have enough money for schools, first responders, or libraries. We need to do a lot better job of appraising property at the appraiser's office, and we haven't been doing it. And it's starting to affect the school system. There's not enough money being collected, and they're about $60 million short here in 2014. And that affects, the school system with regards to buying books, buying laptops for kids, and so forth. We can definitely do a better job. Another thing I wanted to talk to you about here in Dade County is something that affects all of us as taxpayers, and that's called homestead exemption fraud. Now, I calculate using my own numbers that we've got about $202 to $450 million of homestead fraud occurring each year. The way that I came up with those numbers is using numbers that are pretty well known within the industry. 5% is about the average fraud rate for homestead exemption throughout the country. Now, as you know, being a member of Miami-Dade and being a resident long enough, with regards to fraud, whether it's Medicaid fraud, mortgage fraud, ID theft, or any type of fraud, we're usually double or triple the national average. But we'll go ahead and use 5%, as you see on this slide. 5% of the 450,000 homesteaded properties gives you about 22,500 properties. We went ahead and multiplied that times the average lien that we found when we found homestead fraud in 2012 was about $9,000. Now, when you multiply those two numbers, you're going to get about $202 million of fraud here in Dade County. And that's using a very conservative estimate of 5%, which is a national average. Now, if you use double the national average, which I think is a number that we're probably a lot closer to, that'll give you 45,000 pieces of property times $9,000, the average lien that we found when somebody's committing homestead exemption fraud. And that'll give you about $405 million per year. This is a yearly amount, folks. We need to do a much, much better job of going after this type of fraud, because at the end of the day, you pay for it, I pay for it when somebody else is cheating the system. Now, if you go back in time, and let's go back in time a couple of years, let's see how we actually did identifying fraud dollars with regards to homestead exemption. In 2009, it was only $5 million we liened. 2010, $5 million. 2011, $7 million. And interestingly enough, in 2012, during an election year, when this became a hotly debated topic, we were able to come up with about $26 to $28 million, give or take, of homestead exemption fraud dollars that we identified. So as you can see, when we put a little bit of effort into it, a little bit of energy, we can do a good job of recouping these monies which belong in our system. We're suffering from a lack of funds for libraries, first responders, and $200 to $400 million is a lot of money that we're leaving on the table. And we haven't even scratched the surface of homestead exemption fraud collections. So we need to do a lot better job, folks, of not only appraising property here in Dade County, but also going after homestead exemption fraud that historically we haven't gone after. And one of the things I wanted to leave you with, we're going to be coming up with a couple of more videos going forward with other topics that are affecting the property appraiser's office. But I want to remind you that the election is in August 26, 2014. We have a primary. And hopefully these videos that we're going to produce are going to get you the knowledge that you need to make an educated decision on who you're going to vote for your next Miami-Dade property appraiser. Again, my name is Alex Dominguez. I'm asking for your vote in August, and my phone number again is 786-210-2366. Again, that's my direct number, 786-210-2366. And should you have any questions, please feel free to call me. I return all phone calls, and I look forward to talking to each and every one of you. Thank you so much for your time, and I look forward to talking to you again. Take care.